AI Mentors is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our podcast, AI Mentors, brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI Mentors cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career.
You're listening to AI Mentors. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Gabi Steele. Gabi is the Data Visualization Manager at WeWork. Gabi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, JP. Very happy to be here.
Great. So, Gabi, start off, give us a bit of background of yourself, your journey, and how you got involved in tech.
Yeah, so I actually began my kind of professional life studying painting and drawing. My first degree was in fine arts. And then from there, I went into graphic design and I worked in the fashion world and advertising, doing branding related stuff. And it was really rewarding. But what I wanted to do more of was storytelling with a real story, a real message. And I also wanted to be able to build the stories that I was designing. And in order to do all of that, I felt like getting into engineering a little bit might be valuable, but I didn't know exactly the segue. And I ended up joining Parsons School of Design, the first class they ever had in their master's in data visualization program. And that was a really exciting transition. It was like a really quick one-year program, a really small specialized cohort. And I was able to continue designing and thinking creatively, but also applying statistics skills and some front-end engineering skills. And that's when I got into data visualization. And the field was kind of just erupting at that time. And a lot of people wanted to talk about what exactly is this field and what does it mean? And from that degree, I went and I worked at the Washington Post. I joined right before the 2016 presidential election, and I was a part of their design and storytelling team. Really exciting. And I kind of went on this road show then, becoming like a speaker for the data visualization field. A lot of people weren't exactly sure what that field meant, what it included. And I consistently did this sort of explanation of like, well, it's actually like a combination of disciplines. It's a combination of graphic design, statistics, and computer science. And coming together, it's sort of a field of its own. And obviously with the rise of big data and everything that's going on in the world, it's become a specialization. But every job I've ever taken since graduating from that master's degree with data visualization in the title has been dramatically different from the last. So in many ways, it's its own field, but in other ways, it's really not. It's more of a skill set. And I think it can be applied to so many different industries and roles and companies. So that was really exciting. And then a couple years into the Washington Post, I was recruited by WeWork to join and start as their first ever data visualization engineer, which I knew would be a bit of a different direction, a different jump from journalism. And I wasn't sure about it, but I had this really special call with someone on their team who ended up being my manager and partner later. And I was just convinced by the culture. I was like, you know what, I'll try something new. And I also didn't know if I was really qualified to start a data visualization engineering team, which made me even more excited when they offered me the job. So I started that, just over two and a half years ago. And here I am still doing it.
An amazing journey in such a short space of time. Great. So leading into your current role at WeWork, can you tell us a little bit about what your role is involved and some of the marquee projects that you've been involved in, being, individual one for data visualization? So what have you had to work on over the past few years?
Yeah, so I was brought in as the first ever data visualization engineering hire at WeWork. The company was 2,100 people at the time. It's now more than 13,000. So it was still kind of early days, but not really. I don't think they really knew what they wanted there, but they knew that they were gathering a ton of data, right? WeWork was collecting data on members coming in and out of buildings, the key card swipes. There was also just talk about sensors, different ways to measure success. And in order for that data to be useful, it really needed to be visualized. It needed to be made human. And that's like the foundation of this field. So initially, I came to help build tools. I joined the data product team to help create different data products, prototypes, web applications, stories, anything that would take WeWork's data and make it more accessible to both internal and external audiences. And that was really fun. But the most impactful thing that I was a part of since starting at WeWork is I helped co-create, co-develop, and co-found a program called Data Cult, which was initially an onboarding program for people who were joining the data team. And I actually went through it when I joined the company. It was very small at the time. It was like 4 people in a room, in a conference room, just like being instructed on how WeWork's data systems worked, because WeWork's data has been, it's a startup that grew quite quickly. It's messy, which I think is actually way more common than not. But yeah, so that was the foundation of this program, this onboarding program. And I went through the program, and I was teaching at Parsons at the time in Columbia, and I knew a bit about education. And I thought, wow, this is actually like really impactful. The whole setup was you spend 2 weeks learning about WeWork's data infrastructure, and then you develop a project that solves a problem for the business worth $10 million. And never in my career had I walked into a company and been asked, like, what's a problem you want to solve? A $10 million problem, we'll help you solve it. And I just felt so empowered in such a different way. And I said to my partner, who was running the program, like, whoa, this is actually way, way bigger than just a data team program. Anyone could benefit from this. We should open it up to the whole company. Let's try to build this out into something that everyone can benefit from. You don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to be on the data team. So quite quickly, like pretty much overnight, and nobody assigned us to do this. We just like threw a curriculum together. We threw electives together. We like published it, word of mouth. Who wants to join this program? We rented out a conference room. It was really easy to do in WeWork. And we threw a bunch of people in a room, and we ran this like really high production value, like training program. And we kept calling it Data Cult. And it started with 30 people. And now we've run the program we've run it 18 times in 7 countries and 8 cities. We've had over 600 graduates, and it's just completely erupted. And we've run it mostly at WeWork, but also for portfolio companies with other data structures like Flatiron School, which is owned by WeWork. And it's just been so rewarding and successful to watch all these people from 25 different departments, architects and designers and sales analysts and literally HR, whatever department you're from, go into this program and solve $10 million problems within a week, learn some of the like SQL skills, the Python skills, and just pick up this true data culture, which we've built from the ground up. So despite coming in to run this data visualization team, and even though, we've been really successful in doing that, and there are a lot of exciting data visualization products that have come out of our work, I was surprised again that the most impactful thing and the most impactful part of my job has actually been this program that totally did not come from management. It was completely by chance.
To be able to introduce a project program like that with no prior experience is very, very impressive. One of the things I want to ask you about then is how that program has helped you work with various different business units who are not data centric and help them understand the value that this can have in the quality of data, how it can improve business decisions, not just tech.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good question, and exactly what we preach in the program. I think it's really common, and I think I saw this when I got into data visualization. Companies know they're collecting a lot of data. There's no company today that isn't a data company, really, because every company has so much data, regardless of, you could be selling food. It doesn't matter what you're selling, but very few companies are leveraging that data to make good business decisions. And it turns out that most people are actually very siloed. And especially with big businesses, you can have entire departments functioning as their own business, their own company. It's like as if there's 5 different companies within one business. So how you break down those silos and get people actually using the data to solve problems is far harder than one would think, but also just is really uncommon. Like the program was it was totally scrappy. We came together with it overnight, but it was super important to us to have this multidisciplinary learning experience. And I come from a design world. I moved into tech, right? Like just totally, I learned to code on the job. I did do this degree, but a lot of the like hands-on skills I've picked up through doing projects. And I really believe that you didn't need to go to school for computer science to make impactful choices and to use data to solve really, really big problems. So that's kind of been the foundation of the program. The biggest thing in helping people do that is surprisingly just like helping them believe in themselves. There's been so much empowerment. People are really like data and coding. It's really intimidating. And I think if you don't feel confident that you have the skill set or you've been trained in it specifically, then you're kind of like, I'll leave this to the engineers, they'll do the work. But it's completely invaluable to have a group of engineers just modeling your data in one side of the business and then having a bunch of dashboards that no one looks at. What we teach in Data Cult is that data itself is pretty useless. It's only important if you serve it up to the right person at the moment when they need to make a decision, and then they can make a more intelligent decision, at which point, okay, then it's really useful. Then you're solving a $10 million problem. And so many of the projects that we've seen come out of the program are super, super simple. Like the engineering side of it, we've seen web apps developed and Tableau dashboards and Looker dashboards and emails. It's just all sorts of different mediums for solving these problems. But most of the time, it's about sorting data better or just serving it up to that person when they need to make a decision. And if you think about solving problems when you're looking through data, instead of just modeling it, managing it, organizing it, the data is so much more useful because data alone is meaningless.
Several really important pieces of advice there that I know will resonate with a lot of people. Look, you've had the luxury now of giving this program to so many different people, different regions, different skill sets, different professions, all within the larger organization. What are the common challenges that people have in bridging the gap between, first of all, becoming more data centric, but then flipping it for people who are on the data side, helping them communicate with the various business units to understand the value of what they have available?
Yeah, I think one really important part of this program is, and I mentioned this earlier, it's about multidisciplinary experiences. So on the first days, we run this like core curriculum and we bring people from across the business into one room. Engineers, business analysts, designers, it really doesn't matter. It could be any business, could be any group. But it's really important to us that it's a multidisciplinary group. And that's where we workshop problems. And we actually we spend a lot of time just asking people, what's the hardest part of their day? How could their decisions on a day-to-day basis be more informed? And it's so fascinating to hear people shout from across the room, like, oh, I'm struggling with this problem on sales. And someone says, well, that's not really a problem. It's actually a bigger issue if you do it that way. And just seeing these silos literally, like they melt away in the room, and hearing different people's perspectives on how the data is being used or not used really does help shape the projects that get formed and help show different people from across the company how to have a bigger impact. And then we do a lot of problem statement workshopping. It's shocking how few people know how to write a clear problem statement. Most of the time, we're given tasks at work, right? Most of our days, whether you're an engineer or you're an analyst or doing something totally different, our days are made up of people saying, okay, can you bring me this proposal? Can you write me this list? Can you make me this dashboard? If someone asks you to build a dashboard and you can do so without any business context, then you know you've just been assigned a task and it's boring and it's going to be a waste of time. If you can change the whole way you work into something where someone's coming to you not with a task, but here's a problem I want to solve, or I've noticed this is happening because of X, or this consequence is occurring repeatedly, then suddenly you're asking whoever your partner, your colleague is to be creative. You want to inspire solutions. Any good problem can be solved in infinite number of ways. So by posing a really good problem statement, then you can actually, it's also really good for leadership. Like tons of product managers benefit so much from this because they want to be posing problems to their team of like engineers and designers and stuff. They don't want to be just telling them, build this thing, because ultimately they're going to build something useless. Using your own creativity and leveraging that is the most impactful way to make a difference. And I think for engineers, that's really uncommon for them to be asked, like, how do you think we should solve this problem versus build me this? And then having them bounce ideas off other people in the room is another like equally beneficial thing. I think as intimidating as it can be for someone who's never touched raw data before to sort of engage and start like querying a database, it's equally scary a lot of the time for engineers to go into the creative world and actually brainstorm how they would want to solve something. So what this program has done is break all of that down. There's no hierarchies. We've run the program in Mexico City, Shanghai, Singapore, London, Tel Aviv, San Francisco, New York, Sao Paulo. They're about to run the program there. We've got some partners that are going to continue. It's really, really exciting. But what the point of it's something that breaks down cultural barriers. Yes, this has sort of mostly been happening within the walls of WeWork, but every WeWork office in a different region feels very, very different. So it's kind of just diffused a lot of the fake walls that get put up in corporations. And I think that a lot of the time why larger corporations are fighting to be like startups is because in a startup, this kind of agile learning, you can turn around and be like, hey, what are you working on? Hey, what are you doing? Like, let's all work on one problem together. It doesn't really matter what your title is or what your expertise is. You can do it in an agile way. And like WeWork, yeah, it's a corporation now, but it's kind of just like a huge startup. Like it just got very inflated. But the way we've always worked is in this scrappy, no, we're not going to be able to clean up the database. It just won't be possible. It just is too messy. But how do we solve $1 million problems anyway? How do we make a difference tomorrow versus mapping things out on roadmaps for quarters and quarters? And I think if all businesses function this way, we do these like rapid 5-day sprints, right? That's what the program really functions within. It started out as 2 weeks, but now we've been doing these 5-day immersives. They could be so much more productive and they could save their company so much money. And another thing I want to say is that I really do think most employees in most businesses, they do want to save their company money. They really care. Employees are really, really dedicated. They want to make a difference. They find it rewarding. They're just not being asked the right questions a lot of the time. And specifically when it comes to data, in order to really build a data-driven culture, you need to allow people to be creative, engage with data, and just approach things with a data-driven problem-solving mindset. And regardless if you're an engineer or specifically a data engineer or someone much less technical, it doesn't really matter. It's about how you approach problems that's actually going to change the bottom line of your business.
So again, some very valuable advice there. I want to get your perspective now on having built a team within data visualization, to focus really on the advice that you can give for aspiring graphic designers, aspiring engineers, help them understand the possibilities available in data visualization as you've seen it grow internally within an organization.
Yeah. So I think data visualization as an industry is not going anywhere. It's only growing, even though, like I've said this, that it's sort of on the borderline of being a skill set versus a field, but data visualization and storytelling teams, those are starting at businesses everywhere right now. And I've done a lot of consulting work and helping people set up those teams. I think one of the most important things is to think about this definition that I always refer to of data visualization, which is that it's a combination of 3 disciplines, right? And I think a lot of these new, even machine learning or AI, like a lot of these new fields, it's not that you need 100 machine learning engineers to make something run. You need a lot of different people with different backgrounds to piece it together and build something comprehensive. Data visualization teams, when forming them, it's going to be really hard to find 5 unicorn people who have a master's of science in data visualization from Parsons, and they understand design and front-end code, and they also want to look in data warehouses and do all of that. Don't waste your time. There's not so many of us, and there's not that many people that necessarily like want to do that day in and day out. It's better if you put together a multidisciplinary team of people who are coming from each of these backgrounds. So if you're in graphic design, you're qualified to work on a data visualization team. If you're a data engineer, you can absolutely engage with this field. And similarly, people who are analysts and stats and things like that, they would come together really neatly to build a team. I think going back to what I said about problem statements, when forming a data visualization team, do ask yourself, why am I doing this? What problems do I want this team to solve? How do I think they can contribute to our bottom line? How can they save us money? If it's all about creating internal data products, okay, so then you might want to stack more heavily on the front-end engineering and the data engineering kind of warehouse side and have 1 or 2 designers. If the purpose is storytelling and you're working at a news outlet or a journalist, whatever, Washington Post, things like that, and this is for external audiences, you probably don't need so many back-end engineers. The data you're using might not even require a data warehouse. It might even be simple enough that it can be manipulated in other ways. So you probably want to stack like higher on the design side. but you definitely want on any good data visualization team, somebody from each of the disciplines who has a really strong background in design, stats and analysis, and front-end engineering. And then together you can kind of piece that into a team and see like things will change. So if you start by hiring those three, you can skew it in either direction based on what problem you're trying to solve by creating that team.
That's a message for every data science manager, director, VP of engineering. It doesn't matter how much data you've got, how impressive your algorithms are. If you can't tell the story and the visualization side isn't on point, it won't resonate with front office or even more important, your external clients. Okay, so to finish off then, what's next for you, for Data Cult? What are you excited about for the future of database?
Yeah, so to go back to my background and how I started, I've never been, I've done it. Yeah, I did a painting and drawing degree. I've worked in Diane von Furstenberg fashion houses. I've worked in like so many different crazy places, but I've never thought of myself as one thing. I've always wanted to maintain this kind of multidisciplinary status, and I've never said no. I've really just said yes to some crazy stuff, and I think every job I take, I know it's a job for me if it's something that I don't feel qualified to do. So the work that I've done here at this company and with the amazing team that's grown here, because I've worked with some of the best people ever, I'll definitely take that with me, whatever does come next. I think data culture and spreading that idea of creating true problem solvers and actually using your data more impactfully at larger corporations, at startups, building out that culture is something that will continue to be important to me and definitely something I will take with me whatever I do next. So yeah, I'll continue to consult. I think there's a huge amount of work out there for people who want to go in to companies that maybe already did develop their machine learning AI and they have 1,000 people working on it. But are they really saving money? Are they really driving insights? Probably not. I think data culture in most organizations, in most groups globally could be improved upon. So yeah, I want to continue to empower people to get involved in this field. Data is not an exclusive industry. It touches everything and everyone. And anyone who feels like they're not qualified to be a part of it just needs a good pep talk from a data coach. So you can hit me up for that anytime. But yeah, we'll see what's next. But I'm definitely going to stick with this data culture, innovation, storytelling stuff. I've really built a career around being a communicator and a storyteller. And I think that is taken for granted in a lot of moments, and a lot of the tech world and the tech bubble and everything that's kind of on the verge of popping now. It can't really be taken for granted any longer because you're just going to keep investing in these massive teams of engineers that aren't talking to anyone else in the business. There's just no room for that anymore. It's just such a waste of money. So I think the glue that will piece it all together is building strong culture and actually empowering employees to be creative. I think everyone deserves to be creative at work. Everyone deserves to be themselves at work. That's not an experience I've had at every job, but it's definitely an experience I had here, and I will not be trading that going forward. And there's a lot of ways to achieve those goals. Don't limit yourself. Don't feel like you need to fit into another role in order to have a profitable career. You can be you, and you can learn on the job. You can explore different fields, and data is a really exciting one.
Well, clearly you're a great storyteller. It's been a great story so far, and we look forward to seeing what's next. Gabi Steele, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.